The massive alien ships appeared in the skies above countless worlds at exactly the same moment. Their dark hulls blocked out stars as they positioned themselves in perfect formation above 73 different planets. Each ship was the size of a small moon, casting shadows that stretched across entire continents. Ambassador Veltar stood in the center of the Hegemony Command vessel, his forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the holographic displays. Each screen showed a different world, each one receiving the same message at precisely the same time. His scaled skin gleamed under the blue light of the projectors as surrender code began flooding their communication systems. The Andorian Empire has sent their compliance signal, his aide reported, the creature's voice echoing through the chamber. The Stellar Federation follows immediately after. Veltar nodded slowly. This was how it always went. The hegemony had perfected the art of conquest through overwhelming display of power. Show them the impossible size of your fleet. Give them exactly 72 hours to decide. And watch as even the proudest civilizations chose survival over defiance. It was efficient. It was clean. It was predictable. Fire across the galaxy. On a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, Commander Lee Jun sat in a room filled with glowing screens and busy officers. The United Earth Defense Headquarters buzzed with activity as reports came in from monitoring stations around the world. The commander was a tall man with graying hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles already. Lieutenant Park Hannah sat at her station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as she tracked the surrender signals coming from across the galaxy. Her face grew more serious with each new transmission. "So, the Crystalline Collective just sent their surrender code," she reported, turning to face her commander. "That makes 4 to 7 independent worlds that have given up in the last 12 hours. Lee Jun stood up from his chair and walked to the large window that looked out over the bustling defense center below. Hundreds of officers and technicians worked at their stations, all of them knowing that their world might be facing its final hours of freedom. What about the others? The Zephyrians were always tough fighters. Park Hannah checked her console again, her expression growing darker. The Zephyrian Republic transmitted their compliance signal 6 hours ago. The Nomadic Fleet Confederation surrendered 3 hours after that. She paused, checking the incoming data streams one more time. "Sir, we're receiving confirmation from our deep space monitors. We're the only ones left." The weight of those words settled over the command center like a heavy blanket. Every conversation became quieter. Every officer moved with more purpose. The reality of their situation was becoming clear to everyone in the room. Lee Jun walked back to his command station and activated the communication system that connected him to military leaders around the world. The holographic faces of admirals and generals appeared in the air around him, each one showing the strain of the last few days. "Admiral Kim Tai, what's the status of our naval forces?" The admiral's image flickered slightly as she responded from her flagship somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. "All fleets are moving to defensive positions as ordered. Commander, we have 4 to 7 ships of the line ready for combat, plus supporting vessels. The enemy has over 2,000 ships in their advanced fleet alone." "Colonel Yumira, how are our ground forces?" The colonel appeared tired but determined. "All major population centers have been evacuated to underground facilities. Our defensive positions are manned and ready. We have enough supplies for 6 months of siege warfare, maybe more if we're careful." Lee Jun nodded at each report, though everyone in the room knew the numbers were hopeless. The hegemony had conquered civilizations with technology far more advanced than Earth's. Some of the species that had just surrendered had been traveling between stars when humans were still learning to make fire. "So," Park Hannah spoke up quietly, "we're receiving a direct communication from the Hegemony Command ship. They are asking for our response to their ultimatum. The deadline is in 6 hours." The commander looked around the room at the faces of his officers. These were good people, brave people, who had volunteered to stand between Earth and its enemies. Many of them had families in those underground shelters. All of them knew what surrender would mean for their children and grandchildren. "Have you ever read the old history books, Lieutenant?" Lee Jun asked, still looking out the window. "So, our ancestors faced impossible odds before. They stood on beaches watching invasion fleets that stretched to the horizon. They defended cities against armies 10 times their size. They fought wars they couldn't win because some things are worth dying for." He turned back to face his officers. "Freedom is one of those things." The room fell silent except for the quiet hum of electronics and the distant sound of aircraft taking off from the base below. "Send a message to the Hegemony Council," Lee Jun said quietly. "Tell them we decline their generous offer. Tell them if they want our world, they're going to have to come and take it." Park Hannah's fingers hesitated over her controls for just a moment before she began typing the response that would seal Earth's fate. The message from Earth appeared on Veltar's command screen with a soft chime that seemed far too gentle for what it contained. The ambassador read the words 3 times before he could believe what he was seeing. His scaled hands trembled slightly as he forwarded the transmission to his tactical advisor. "This cannot be correct," Veltar said, his voice carrying the weight of confusion and growing anger. "Run a translation check. Perhaps our language computers made an error." His tactical advisor, a tall creature with 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows, examined the message carefully. "No, sir. The translation is perfect. The humans have refused our ultimatum. They are telling us to come and take their world by force if we want it." Veltar walked to the viewing window of his massive ship and stared down at the small blue planet below. In all his years serving the Hegemony, he had never encountered such foolishness. Every species eventually understood that resistance was pointless when faced with overwhelming power. The humans had seen what happened to the others. They knew the size of the Hegemony fleet. Yet somehow they had chosen to fight. "Sir, should we begin immediate bombardment?" asked his weapons officer. "No," Veltar replied slowly. "Send word to the High Command. Tell them we need the 3rd Pacification Fleet. These humans seem to need a proper demonstration of our power before they come to their senses." Far below on the ocean surface of Earth, Admiral Kim Tai stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Indomitable. The ship was old by galactic standards, but it had been built by human hands and crewed by human hearts. Around her, officers worked quietly at their stations, each one knowing that the next few days would determine the fate of their species. The holographic images of her fleet commanders flickered to life around the Admiral's command table. Captain Oh-sung commanded the Destroyer Squadron, a collection of fast ships that could hit hard and move quickly. Captain Lee-won controlled the cruiser group, heavier ships with more armor and bigger guns. Captain Park Minute led the carrier division, ships loaded with fighter craft and bombers. "The evacuation of our outer colonies is complete," Kim Tai reported to her officers. "Every civilian has been moved to hardened shelters on Earth or relocated to the hidden bases in the asteroid belt. Our families are as safe as we can make them." Captain Oh-sung leaned forward, his face serious. "Admiral, our intelligence reports show the enemy has over 3,000 ships in their main fleet. We have less than 60 ships that can fight in space combat. Their weapons can destroy planets. Our biggest guns can barely scratch their armor." The other commanders nodded grimly. Everyone knew the numbers. Everyone understood how hopeless their situation appeared on paper. But Kim Tai had not become an admiral by giving up when things looked impossible. "You are absolutely right, Captain," she said calmly. "If we try to fight them the way they expect, we will lose in less than an hour. That is why we are not going to fight their kind of war. We are going to fight our war." She activated the tactical display, showing the space around Earth and the positions of both fleets. The Hegemony has conquered dozens of species, but they have never faced humans before. They do not understand what makes us different. They think we are just another race that will break when pressed hard enough. Captain Lee-won raised his hand. "What makes us different, Admiral?" Kim Tai smiled, but there was no humor in it. Every other species they conquered was fighting for territory, or resources, or political power. Things they could live without if they had to. We are fighting for our children's right to grow up free. We are fighting for the memory of everyone who came before us. We are fighting for the idea that some things are worth dying for. The Admiral pointed to different areas on the tactical display. "We will not meet them in open battle where their superior numbers and weapons can crush us. We will hit them when they do not expect it, where they do not expect it. We will make them pay for every meter of space they try to control. We will show them that conquering Earth means fighting for every single piece of it." On the surface of Earth, Colonel Yoon Mara walked through the defensive positions that her soldiers had been building for the past 3 days. Underground bunkers connected by tunnels stretched for kilometers beneath major cities. Anti-aircraft guns had been hidden in forests and on mountainsides. Supply depots had been buried so deep that only nuclear weapons could reach them. Sergeant BAE Jun jogged up to her with a datapad containing the latest intelligence reports. Our spy satellites have confirmed it. The Hegemony is sending their third pacification fleet to deal with us. This is the same force that conquered the Andromedans in 6 days and the Centauri Republic in less than a week. You and Myra took the report and read through the numbers. 1,500 warships. Enough firepower to turn continents into glass. An army that had never known defeat. Have you ever heard the story of the Battle of Thermopylae, Sergeant? She asked. No. A few hundred warriors held off an army of hundreds of thousands. They could not win, but they could make victory cost more than their enemies wanted to pay. She handed the report back and checked her rifle one more time. The Hegemony is about to learn what happens when you corner a species that refuses to quit. The space around Earth lit up with the brilliant flashes of 1,500 Hegemony warships dropping out of hyperspace. Commander Velnok stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as his massive fleet took perfect formation around the small human world. This was supposed to be simple. The third pacification fleet had never needed more than a few days to crush any resistance. All ships report ready for combat. Sir, his tactical officer announced. Should we begin bombardment of their military installations? Velnok nodded with satisfaction. Send one final surrender demand. Give them 10 minutes to respond. Then we show them what happens to species that defy the Hegemony. But before the message could be sent, alarms began screaming throughout the flagship. The sensor operator, his 4 eyes wide with panic, shouted across the bridge. Sir, multiple contact approaching at high speed. They are coming from the asteroid belt. Velnok looked at his tactical display and felt his confidence drain away. Dozens of human ships were racing toward his fleet, but these were not warships. These were cargo haulers, mining vessels, and passenger transports. Ships that had no business in a space battle. What are they doing? He muttered. Those ships have no weapons, no armor. They cannot possibly threaten us. His question was answered moments later when the first human cargo ship smashed directly into one of his cruisers. The explosion lit up space like a small star as both vessels were destroyed instantly. Then another human ship rammed into a destroyer. Then another crashed into a battleship. They are using their civilian ships as weapons, the tactical officer screamed. They loaded them with explosives and are flying them directly into our hulls. Captain Choihan gripped the controls of his fighter as warning lights flashed all around him. His weapons were gone, destroyed by enemy fire 10 minutes ago. His life support was failing, filling the cockpit with smoke and the bitter taste of recycling failure. His fuel was almost empty. By every reasonable measure, he should eject and hope for rescue. Instead, he looked at the image of his wife and daughter taped to his instrument panel and pushed his throttle to maximum power. The Hegemony destroyer ahead of him grew larger in his view screen, its massive guns turning to track his approach. This is for Seoul, he whispered, thinking of his hometown where his family waited in underground shelters. This is for everyone who cannot fight. His fighter struck the destroyer's bridge at nearly the speed of light. Both vessels vanished in a bowl of superheated plasma. On the surface of Mars Colony, Hegemony ground troops advanced through the mining complex with casual confidence. They had landed expecting token resistance from a few human security guards. What they found instead was Lieutenant Shin Yun and her 40 soldiers, who had spent 3 days turning every tunnel into a death trap. The first squad of alien soldiers triggered the hidden explosives in Tunnel 7. The blast brought down half a kilometer of ceiling, crushing 12 enemy troops and sealing off their escape route. The second squad walked into Tunnel 9 and found themselves caught in crossfire from hidden positions that had been carved into the rock walls. Contact the fleet. The Hegemony ground commander spoke into his communication device. We need more troops down here. These humans have turned this entire facility into a fortress. His aide looked confused. Sir, we brought enough soldiers to conquer a planet. How many humans can there be in one mining complex? The ground commander ducked as bullets sparked off the rocks near his head. It does not matter how many there are. It matters how they fight. They will not retreat even when we surround them. They will not surrender even when they are outnumbered 10-1. We have lost more troops taking this one building than we did conquering the entire Centauri system. Deep in Tunnel 12, Lieutenant Shin Yun reloaded her rifle and checked on her remaining soldiers. They had been fighting for 8 hours straight. Half of her unit was wounded. Their ammunition was running low. The enemy had brought enough troops to overwhelm them eventually. Sergeant Park Kyu crawled over to her position. The enemy is bringing up heavy weapons. They are going to blast through our positions in the next hour. Shin Yun nodded calmly. Then we make them pay for every meter. Have the demolition team prepared the final charges. Yes, when we cannot hold any longer, we can bring down the entire complex. Good. If we cannot keep this facility, then nobody gets it. High above the planet, Admiral Kim Tai coordinated the defense from her battered flagship. The UES Indomitable had taken heavy damage in the first hour of fighting, but it was still operational. Around her, officers worked frantically to track the battle that was raging across the entire solar system. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Han Wu reported from his station. We have lost 36 ships in the last 2 hours. The enemy has lost over 200 vessels, but they still outnumber us 8-1. Kim Tai studied the tactical display. Her fleet was being destroyed, but they were taking an incredible toll on their enemies. What are the enemy communications saying? They are requesting immediate reinforcements from their main fleet. Their ground commander is reporting unexpectedly heavy resistance on Mars Colony. Their fleet commander is asking for instructions on how to deal with suicide attacks. The Admiral allowed herself a small smile. They came here expecting to fight another species like all the others they have conquered. Instead, they found humans, and humans do not fight like anyone else in the galaxy. Supreme Commander Veltar sat in his command chamber, staring at reports that made no sense. 3 years ago, he had been told that the human problem would be solved in a matter of weeks. The Third Pacification Fleet would crush their resistance, and the galaxy would finally be under complete hegemony control. Instead, he was looking at casualty numbers that grew larger every month. So, the monthly reports are ready, his intelligence chief said, placing a data tablet on the commander's desk. The alien's voice carried a tone of exhaustion that had become common among hegemony officers. Veltar picked up the tablet and began reading. The numbers made his stomach turn. We have lost over 800 ships in the last 3 months alone. How is this possible? The humans started with less than 60 vessels. It gets worse, sir, the intelligence chief replied. The human resistance has spread beyond their own territory. The Andromedans have begun using human guerrilla tactics against our occupation forces. The Centauri colonies are in open rebellion. Even the Zephyrians, who surrendered without a fight 3 years ago, are now attacking our supply convoys. The Supreme Commander stood up and walked to the large viewing window that showed the stars of 17 different sectors. Each one of those points of light now represented a problem that required hegemony ships and soldiers to contain. How many sectors are reporting active rebellion? He asked quietly. 17 confirmed. Sir? Another 12 showing signs of unrest. The humans have somehow convinced these species that resistance is possible. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Major General Park Jin stood before a holographic map that showed the current state of the war. The hidden base around him buzzed with activity as human soldiers and technicians worked alongside alien refugees who had joined their cause. Captain Nams, who approached with the latest intelligence reports. Say, our spy networks confirmed that the hegemony is pulling their reserve fleets from the Outer Rim. They are planning one final push to end this war. Park Jin studied the tactical display. Red dots showed hegemony positions across dozens of star systems. Blue dots marked human forces, scattered and outnumbered but still fighting. Green dots represented the alien rebellions that had sprung up across the galaxy. How many ships are they bringing? Park Jin asked. Everything they have. Sir? Over 5,000 warships. They are leaving only skeleton forces to guard their home territories. The general smiled grimly. Perfect. The more ships they send against us, the fewer they have to put down the other rebellions. He activated a communication array that connected him to human forces across the galaxy. All units, this is command, prepare for Operation Defiance. The enemy is about to commit everything they have. We are going to make them regret it. On the distant world of New Geneva, Colonel Lee Minute crouched in the ruins of what had once been the planetary capital. The hegemony had occupied this world for 2 years, but they had never been able to fully control it. Human Marines fought alongside alien rebels in a war that had no front lines and no safe areas. Major Kang Wu crawled up to a position, keeping low to avoid the enemy sensors that swept the area constantly. The local resistance leader wants to meet with you. They have intelligence about hegemony troop movements. Lee Minute nodded and followed her second-in-command through the rubble-filled streets to a hidden bunker where the alien rebels had set up their command post. The resistance leader was a tall, thin creature with purple skin and large eyes that reflected the dim light of their emergency lanterns. "Colonel," the alien said in broken but understandable human language, "my people want to thank yours for showing us how to fight again." "You do not need to thank us," Lee Minute replied. "We are all fighting for the same thing now." The alien leader gestured to the other rebels in the bunker. "Before the humans came, we had forgotten what freedom meant. We accepted occupation because we thought survival was more important than anything else. The humans taught us something we had lost." Major Kang Wu leaned forward. "What did we teach you?" "That some things matter more than survival. That a life spent in chains is not really living at all. That even when you cannot win, you can still refuse to lose." Back on his flagship, Supreme Commander Veltar reviewed the final preparations for what the hegemony leadership was calling the last campaign. Every available ship had been pulled from patrol duties across the galaxy. Every reserve unit had been activated. The entire military might of 12 alien species was being focused on one small sector of space where a primitive race continued to defy them. "Sir, all fleets report ready," his tactical officer announced. "We have assembled the largest military force in hegemony history." Veltar nodded but felt no confidence. 3 years of fighting humans had taught him that numbers alone did not guarantee victory. Begin the advance, and pray to whatever god still listened that this finally ends a nightmare these humans are created. On Earth, now scarred by 3 years of warfare but still unconquered, the last free human prepared for what might be their final battle. They had lost much, but they had also accomplished something incredible. Across the galaxy, species that had forgotten how to resist were remembering. The fire of rebellion that had started on one small blue planet was spreading to every corner of the hegemony. The children of Earth had kept their promise. They had not surrendered, and in refusing to kneel, they had taught the galaxy to stand. The sky above Earth burned with the light of 5,000 hegemony warships. Supreme Commander Veltar had brought every vessel he could find, stripping defenses from across the galaxy for this final assault. The blue planet below was surrounded by so many enemy ships that they blocked out the sun in many places, casting entire continents into artificial night. General Kim Ha stood in the underground command center buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The walls shook constantly from the bombardment above, dust falling from the ceiling with each massive explosion. Her staff worked frantically at their stations, trying to coordinate a defense that everyone knew was hopeless. "So, all orbital defense platforms have been destroyed," reported her communications officer. "Enemy dropships are breaking through the atmosphere. We count over 10,000 landing craft heading for major population centers." Kim Ha looked at the tactical displays showing red enemy markers descending like rain across every continent. "Send word to all ground commanders. The space battle is over. Now we fight them on our terms." Admiral Park Sun limped into the command center, his uniform torn and blooded from the destruction of his flagship 6 hours earlier. He had commanded the last remnant of Earth's space fleet in a desperate final battle that had cost the enemy hundreds of ships but ultimately failed to stop their landing. "General, what are your orders?" he asked, saluting despite his wounds. "The same orders we have given for 3 years, Admiral. We fight them in every street, in every building, in every room. We make them pay for every meter of our world they want to control." In the ruined streets of Seoul, Captain O'Minute led a squad of Marines through the wreckage of what had once been a beautiful city. The hegemony had been bombing the area for hours, but somehow her soldiers had survived in the underground tunnels and subway systems that honeycombed the urban area. "Enemy troops, 2 blocks ahead," whispered Corporal Lisu, peering around the corner of a destroyed building. "Looks like a full company, supported by their walking tanks." Old Minute checked her rifle and counted her remaining ammunition. Her squad had started the day with 30 soldiers. Now she had 8, but they were still fighting, and that was what mattered. "Remember what we learned in training," she told her soldiers. They have better weapons and better armor, but they do not understand our city. They do not know which buildings have hidden passages. They do not know which streets are dead ends. This is our home, and we will defend it. The hegemony ground forces advance through the streets with confidence, their massive war machines crushing abandoned cars and debris. They had conquered dozens of worlds, and the pattern was always the same. Once the orbital defenses fell, resistance collapsed quickly, but Sol was different. Every building seemed to hide enemy soldiers. Every intersection became a battlefield. The hegemony ground commander stood in his command vehicle, studying reports that made no sense. How can one city cost us so many troops? We have been fighting for 6 hours and have advanced less than 5 kilometers. His aide looked confused. Say, our intelligence said there were only a few thousand human soldiers in this area. We have already identified over 10,000 enemy positions. Every human in the city is fighting, the commander realized. Not just their soldiers. Their police, their firefighters, their teachers, their shopkeepers. All of them. Deep in a subway tunnel that had been converted into a makeshift prison, Sergeant Johann sat against a concrete wall with his hands tied behind his back. He had been captured 3 hours earlier when his position was overrun, but even wounded and beaten, he maintained a defiant attitude that had frustrated his captors. The hegemony interrogator stood over him, his alien face showing irritation. Your situation is hopeless, human. Your orbital defenses are gone. Your fleet is destroyed. Your cities are burning. Why do you continue to resist when surrender would save so many lives? Johann looked up at his captor with blood running down his face and smiled. You do not understand us at all, do you? Explain it to me then. Make me understand why your species chooses death over submission. The sergeant struggled to sit up straighter, even with his hands bound. We are the children of Earth. Our ancestors survived ice ages and plagues and wars that lasted for decades. They built civilizations from nothing, explored unknown oceans, and reached for the stars when everyone said it was impossible. He met the alien's gaze without flinching. And Earth's children do not kneel. Not to anyone. High above the planet, Supreme Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the battle unfold below. What should have been a simple conquest had turned into a nightmare that consumed ships and soldiers at a rate he had never experienced. His intelligence officer approached with a message pad, his expression grim. Sir, we are receiving emergency communication from across the galaxy. The Andromeda sector is in full rebellion. The Centauri worlds have declared independence. Even our home systems are reporting uprisings. Veltar read the reports with growing horror. While he had brought every available ship to crush humanity, the other species had learned from the human example. They had realized that the hegemony was not invincible, that resistance was possible, that freedom was worth fighting for. How many sectors are in rebellion? He asked quietly. 23 confirmed. Say, more every hour. The Supreme Commander stared down at Earth, where every city had become a fortress and every human had become a soldier. He could win this battle, but it would require killing every person on the planet. And even then, the rebellion would continue across the galaxy. Open a communication channel to the human leadership, he ordered with a heavy heart. It is time to discuss terms.